Introduction: Why we procrastinate and how to stop. Procrastination is one of the most common struggles people face, yet it's also one of the least understood. We know we should start that project, hit the gym, or make that important phone call, but somehow we don't. Instead, we distract ourselves, make excuses, or tell ourselves we'll do it later. And later never comes. Why do we do this? Why do we delay things that we know will make our lives better? If you've ever found yourself stuck in the cycle of procrastination, know that you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. Procrastination isn't a personal failure. It's a habit, a response to discomfort, and a learned behavior that can be unlearned. The cost of procrastination. The hidden danger of procrastination is that it doesn't feel like a big problem in the moment. You put off an assignment, delay a workout, or postpone making a decision, and nothing terrible happens, at least not right away. But over time, procrastination compounds, leading to missed opportunities, stress, and regret. Studies show that chronic procrastinators experience higher levels of anxiety, lower productivity, and even reduced well-being. The real tragedy isn't just that we fail to complete tasks, it's that we fail to become the person we know we could be. Breaking free from the cycle. The author of this book knows this struggle firsthand. There was a time when deadlines were constantly missed, goals remained unachieved, and life felt like an endless loop of, "I'll do it tomorrow." This wasn't due to a lack of ambition or intelligence, but rather a lack of control over the invisible forces driving procrastination. Everything changed when the author began to see procrastination not as laziness, but as a mental habit, one that could be understood and rewired. Through research, trial and error, and simple behavioral changes, the grip of procrastination loosened, and a more productive, fulfilling life emerged. What you'll learn in this audiobook. This audiobook isn't just about why we procrastinate, it's about how to stop. Throughout this journey, you'll learn why procrastination is not a time management problem but an emotional one. How small, practical strategies can help you take action immediately. The science behind motivation, self-discipline, and overcoming resistance. How to break free from distractions and build long-lasting focus. How to use rewards, accountability, and environment design to stay on track. The power of self-compassion and how it actually increases productivity. This isn't about perfection or suddenly becoming a productivity machine overnight. Instead, it's about learning to take action despite discomfort, retraining your mind to work for you rather than against you, and building a life where you're in control of your choices, not at the mercy of procrastination. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have the tools and mindset needed to stop procrastinating for good. Are you ready to take control? Hit the subscribe button, and let's get started. Chapter 1. Understanding Procrastination. Procrastination is not about being lazy. It's not a lack of intelligence or even a lack of ambition. At its core, procrastination is an emotional regulation problem. We don't put things off because we can't do them. We put them off because we don't feel like doing them. Understanding this is the first step to overcoming it. Why do we procrastinate? The human brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. When faced with a difficult or unpleasant task, our brain reacts by searching for an easier, more enjoyable alternative. That's why we suddenly feel the urge to check our phones, reorganize our desks, or scroll through social media instead of getting to work. Psychologists call this time inconsistency. Our present self wants comfort and ease, while our future self wants success and fulfillment. When we procrastinate, we prioritize our current emotions over our long-term goals. The monkey mind. How emotions control procrastination. Behavioral scientists describe the brain's battle against procrastination as a fight between two forces. 1. The rational decision maker, the logical part of the brain that understands deadlines, goals, and long-term rewards. 2. The instant gratification monkey, the emotional, impulsive part of the brain that craves pleasure and avoids discomfort. When faced with a challenging task, the instant gratification monkey takes control, steering us toward Netflix, snacks, and social media. The problem? The more we give in, the stronger the habit becomes. The hidden costs of procrastination. Most people don't realize how much procrastination is holding them back. It doesn't just affect work or school. It impacts our health, finances, relationships, and personal growth. The longer we delay important actions, the more stress and regret we accumulate. Missed opportunities. Procrastination can cost job promotions, business success, and personal achievements. Increased stress. The more we delay tasks, the more pressure builds up, making them even harder to start. Lower self-esteem. Repeated procrastination leads to guilt and self-doubt, making us feel incapable of change. Breaking free from the cycle. Understanding why we procrastinate is the first step to overcoming it. In the next chapters, we'll explore scientifically backed strategies to trick our brains into action, overcome emotional resistance, and develop the discipline needed to stay consistent. For now, take a moment to reflect. What are the top 3 tasks you've been putting off? Awareness is the first step to change. Now, let's move forward and learn how to take action. Chapter 2. Awareness, the first step to change. The first step to overcoming procrastination is recognizing when and why it happens. Most people assume they procrastinate because they are lazy or lack discipline, but the truth is that procrastination is often a deeply ingrained habit, one that operates on autopilot. If you don't become aware of it, you can't change it. Why self-awareness is the key to breaking procrastination. Psychologists have found that procrastination isn't just about delaying work, it's about avoiding discomfort. The moment a task triggers stress, boredom, or anxiety, our brain looks for relief. And because our daily habits are automatic, we often don't realize we're procrastinating until much later. Imagine waking up with the intention to write a report. Instead of starting right away, you check your email, then skim through social media, then decide to make coffee. Before you know it, an hour has passed, and the report remains untouched. This cycle repeats itself daily because it has become a subconscious habit. To break free, you must catch yourself in the act of procrastination as it's happening, not after the damage is done. The procrastination log, tracking your patterns. One of the most effective tools for increasing awareness is keeping a procrastination log. Just like a food journal helps people identify unhealthy eating habits, a procrastination log helps reveal patterns of avoidance. How to use a procrastination log. 1. Record the moment you catch yourself procrastinating. Write down what you were avoiding and what you did instead. 2. Identify your emotional state. Were you feeling overwhelmed? Bored? Unmotivated? 3. Look for patterns. After a few days, review your log. Do you always procrastinate at the same time of day? Does a specific task trigger avoidance? Once you identify when and why you procrastinate, you can begin to dismantle the habit. The 3 types of procrastination and how to recognize them. 1. Deadline procrastination, putting things off until the last possible moment, relying on pressure to force action. Example, waiting until the night before an exam to start studying. How to catch it? Pay attention to tasks you repeatedly delay until they become urgent. 2. Avoidance procrastination, avoiding tasks that cause discomfort, fear, or uncertainty. Example, ignoring emails because you fear bad news or rejection. How to catch it? Notice when you avoid a task, then ask yourself, what am I afraid of? 3. Indulgence procrastination, getting caught in distractions that provide short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term goals. Example, choosing Netflix over working on an important project. How to catch it? Be mindful of how you justify entertainment or distractions when important work remains undone. Building the habit of awareness. Breaking procrastination starts with recognizing your patterns in real time. The goal is to create a moment of pause between feeling resistance and taking action. Quick exercise, the 10-second awareness rule. Every time you feel the urge to procrastinate, take 10 seconds to pause and ask, what am I avoiding? Why do I feel resistance? What's the smallest step I can take right now? This small pause interrupts autopilot behavior and puts you back in control. Awareness creates change. You can't fix what you don't see. By tracking your habits, identifying triggers, and catching yourself in the act of procrastination, you take the first step toward breaking free. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how to overcome the fear of getting started, the single biggest reason people delay taking action. Chapter 3. The paradox of getting started. One of the biggest reasons people procrastinate is the fear of starting. The task feels overwhelming, the effort seems too great, and instead of diving in, we convince ourselves that we'll feel more ready later. But here's the paradox. We don't start because we don't feel motivated, but motivation only comes after we start. Why getting started is the hardest part. Studies in behavioral psychology show that our brains naturally resist tasks that seem difficult, unfamiliar, or emotionally uncomfortable. The bigger the task, the more intimidating it appears. This is why the hardest part of working out is putting on your gym clothes, and the hardest part of writing is staring at the blank page. The good news? Once we start, our brain shifts gears. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, a phenomenon where our brain feels tension when we leave something unfinished. That tension keeps us engaged and pushes us to complete the task. In other words, starting creates momentum. The 2-minute rule: trick your brain into taking action. One of the simplest and most effective ways to overcome the fear of starting is the 2-minute rule, a technique popularized by productivity expert James Clear. The rule is simple. If a task feels overwhelming, break it down into a version that takes 2 minutes or less to start. Want to exercise? Just put on your running shoes. Need to write a report? Open a blank document and type 1 sentence. Have a messy room? Fold 1 shirt. The key is to remove the mental barrier of starting. Once you begin, you're much more likely to keep going. The just show up principle. Brian Tracy emphasizes that the most successful people don't rely on motivation, they rely on habits. One of the best habits to build is simply showing up, even if you don't feel ready. Writers who commit to writing for just 5 minutes a day often end up writing for hours. Athletes who show up to train, even on bad days, develop long-term discipline. Entrepreneurs who take small daily actions build businesses that last. By focusing on starting instead of finishing, you eliminate pressure and make productivity easier. Overcoming the initial resistance. If you've ever said, "I'll do it later," but later never comes, here's how to break the cycle. 1. Lower the entry barrier. Make starting as easy as possible. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow. If you want to work out, lay out your gym clothes the night before. 2. Create a launch ritual. Train your brain with a simple routine that signals it's time to work. Example, make a cup of coffee, put on noise-canceling headphones, and start your task immediately. 3. Set a starting goal instead of a completion goal. Instead of saying, "I have to finish this entire project today," say, "I'll work on this for just 10 minutes. 4. Use the 5-second rule. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule states that when you feel resistance, count down 5-4-3-2-1 and immediately start the task before your brain talks you out of it. Action beats motivation. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. But successful people take action first, which then creates motivation. Right now, think of something you've been putting off. Now, take the smallest possible step toward it. Open the document, send the email, take out your gym shoes. Once you start, you'll be amazed at how much easier everything becomes. Chapter 4. Why Time Management Isn't Enough. One of the biggest myths about overcoming procrastination is that it's a time management problem. Many people believe that if they could just create the perfect schedule, buy the right planner, or wake up earlier, they'd finally be productive. But the truth is, procrastination isn't about time, it's about emotions. The real reason time management fails. Think about this. Have you ever had an entire free day but still didn't get anything done? It wasn't because you lacked time, it was because you felt resistance toward the task. You didn't want to do it, so you found ways to avoid it. The mistake most people make is trying to fix procrastination with productivity hacks, when the real issue is emotional avoidance. The emotional root of procrastination. Behavioral psychologists have found that we procrastinate because certain tasks trigger negative emotions, such as fear of failure. What if I do this and it turns out badly? Perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. Boredom. This task is dull, and I'd rather do something fun. Overwhelm. I don't even know where to start, so I'll do nothing. Instead of facing these emotions, we distract ourselves. Social media, Netflix, and unnecessary busy work become escapes from the discomfort. How to manage emotions instead of time. Since procrastination is driven by emotions, the key to overcoming it is learning to work despite how you feel. Here's how. 1. Label your emotions before you start. When you feel resistance, pause and ask, what emotion am I feeling right now? Is it fear, boredom, or overwhelm? What's the worst that could happen if I start? Simply identifying your emotions makes them feel less overwhelming and gives you back control. 2. Break the task into emotionally manageable pieces. Instead of thinking, I have to write an entire report, break it down. Step 1. Open the document. Step 2. Write 1 sentence. Step 3. Set a timer for 10 minutes. When you remove the pressure of the big task, the resistance fades. 3. Reframe the task as a choice, not an obligation. Instead of saying, I have to do this, say, I'm choosing to do this because it benefits me. Example, I'm choosing to exercise because I want to feel strong and healthy. This simple shift changes your relationship with the task. 4. Make it easier to start. If you keep procrastinating on something, ask yourself, how can I make this easier? Can I change my environment to reduce distractions? Can I give myself a small reward for starting? Example, if you procrastinate on reading, put a book next to your bed and commit to reading just one page. Productivity starts with emotional mastery. You don't need a better planner. You don't need more time. You need to train yourself to take action even when you don't feel like it. The most productive people aren't the ones who love every task. They're the ones who know how to work through resistance. Right now, think of something you've been putting off. Ask yourself, what emotion is making me avoid this? Then, apply one of these strategies and start. The sooner you learn to manage emotions instead of time, the faster you'll overcome procrastination for good. Chapter 5. The Magic of a Simple Plan. Procrastination thrives on complexity. The harder something seems, the more likely we are to avoid it. That's why the most effective way to beat procrastination isn't to push harder, it's to make things simpler. Why complexity leads to avoidance. The brain is wired to resist anything that feels confusing, overwhelming, or uncertain. If a task lacks clear steps, we instinctively put it off. This is why people procrastinate on writing reports, starting businesses, or even cleaning their homes. The more complicated it feels, the harder it is to start. The solution? Break every task into clear, simple, and easy-to-follow steps. The power of implementation intentions. One of the most effective ways to fight procrastination is by using implementation intentions, a technique backed by psychology. Instead of saying, I need to work out more, say, I will go to the gym at 6:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Instead of saying, I need to write my book, say, I will write 300 words every day at 8 a.m. Studies show that when people specify exactly when and where they will take action, they are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through. How to make any task instantly simpler. 1. Break it down into micro steps. If a task feels overwhelming, shrink it. Instead of write my research paper, start with write one sentence. Instead of clean the whole house, start with wash one dish. Small steps reduce mental resistance and create momentum. 2. Use if-then planning. If I get distracted by social media, then I will put my phone in another room. If I feel overwhelmed by a task, then I will set a timer for just 10 minutes. This method prepares your brain for obstacles, making it easier to stay on track. 3. Design your environment for success. Your surroundings influence your actions more than willpower. Want to eat healthier? Keep fruit on the table. Want to study more? Leave your books in plain sight. Want to exercise? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Make good habits easier and bad habits harder. 4. Plan tomorrow, today. Every night, write down 1 to 3 important tasks for the next day. When morning comes, you'll know exactly what to do, eliminating decision fatigue. Clarity creates action. The simpler your plan, the easier it is to take action. Complexity leads to procrastination. Clarity leads to productivity. Right now, think of something you've been avoiding. Ask yourself, how can I make this simpler? Then take the first step. The easier you make it to start, the faster you'll break free from procrastination. Chapter 6. Carrots and Sticks, Motivation Strategies. One of the biggest reasons we procrastinate is a lack of motivation. We know what we need to do, but we don't feel like doing it. The problem is that most people wait for motivation to magically appear before taking action. But successful people create motivation instead of waiting for it. The key? Understanding how to use carrots, rewards, and sticks, consequences, to push yourself into action. Why motivation fails without consequences. If you rely on willpower alone, you'll struggle to stay consistent. That's because the human brain prioritizes immediate rewards over future benefits. This is why hitting the snooze button feels better than getting up to exercise, even though we know exercising is better in the long run. But what if skipping your workout came with an immediate consequence? What if every time you procrastinated, you had to pay $50? That's where the power of accountability and external motivation comes in. The science of carrots and sticks. 1. Carrots, the power of rewards. The brain is wired to seek pleasure. When you attach a reward to completing a task, you increase your motivation. Example, give yourself permission to watch your favorite show only after completing an important task. How to apply it? Set up small rewards for hitting milestones. Treat yourself to a coffee, a break, or a fun activity after finishing something important. 2. Sticks, the power of consequences. People are more motivated to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Adding a consequence to procrastination makes it harder to delay tasks. Example: tell a friend that if you don't complete your work by a deadline, you'll donate money to a cause you dislike. How to apply it? Use accountability systems like paying a failure fine if you miss a deadline or committing to public goals. How to trick your brain into taking action. 1. The commitment contract. Write down a commitment with a clear consequence for not following through. Example: I will complete my project by Friday, or I will give my friend $100. 2. The 10-minute reward system. Promise yourself a break or a small treat after just 10 minutes of focused work. Example: work for 10 minutes, then take a 5-minute break, but only if you start. 3. Make it public. Announce your goal to someone who will hold you accountable. Example: tell a friend, mentor, or social media audience what you plan to accomplish. Motivation is created, not found. If you're struggling to take action, don't wait for motivation, build it. Use rewards to make tasks more appealing and consequences to make procrastination painful. Right now, pick one task you've been putting off and attach a reward or consequence to it. You'll be surprised at how quickly you take action. Chapter 7: Technology, Distractions, and Procrastination. In today's world, procrastination is harder to avoid than ever before. We live in a digital age filled with endless distractions. Social media, email, news, and entertainment are always just a tap away. If you don't control your technology will control you. The most productive people aren't the ones with the most willpower. They are the ones who design their environment to minimize distractions. Why technology makes procrastination worse. Every app, notification, and website is designed to steal your attention. Social media platforms and streaming services use psychological tricks to keep you engaged for as long as possible. This is why a quick check of Instagram turns into 30 minutes, and a single YouTube video leads to an entire evening of watching. The result? Important tasks get pushed aside. Studies show that the average person checks their phone 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes. After getting distracted, it takes about 23 minutes to regain full focus. Constant digital interruptions weaken attention span and increase procrastination. How to regain control and stay focused. If you want to overcome procrastination, you must become intentional about your digital habits. Here's how. 1. Use the 80-20 rule for technology. Identify the 20% of digital activities that bring value, learning, work, connection, and the 80% that waste time, mindless scrolling, clickbait content. Limit your time on low-value digital activities. 2. Create focus zones by eliminating digital distractions. Silence notifications while working. Use website blockers to limit social media and distracting sites. Keep your phone in another room while doing deep work. 3. Set technology rules to reduce mindless use. No screens for the first 30 minutes after waking up. Use social media only during set time blocks. Avoid checking emails constantly, batch process them instead. 4. Use technology as a tool, not an escape. Replace passive consumption with active learning. Example: instead of scrolling social media, listen to an educational podcast or read an article that improves your skills. Be the master, not the slave. Technology is not the enemy, mindless use of it is. The most successful people control their digital environment so that it works for them, not against them. Right now, take one step. Turn off unnecessary notifications, set a screen time limit, or put your phone away while working. Small changes will lead to massive improvements in focus and productivity. Chapter 8: The Power of Self-Compassion. Many people believe that the best way to overcome procrastination is through self-criticism. They tell themselves they're lazy, unmotivated, or not good enough. But research shows that self-compassion is far more effective than self-judgment when it comes to breaking procrastination habits. Why beating yourself up doesn't work. Most procrastinators already feel guilty about delaying tasks. Adding self-criticism only makes it worse. Studies in psychology show that negative self-talk leads to more avoidance, stress, and low motivation. When you tell yourself, "I'm such a failure," your brain sees the task as even more painful, leading to more procrastination. When you believe you must be perfect before starting, you increase fear and delay action. Harsh self-judgment causes anxiety, making it harder to focus and be productive. Instead of using guilt as motivation, successful people use self-compassion to break the cycle. How self-compassion boosts productivity. Self-compassion is not about making excuses. It's about treating yourself with kindness so that you can move forward. People who practice self-compassion are more likely to take action instead of avoiding tasks out of fear, less afraid of failure, so they get started faster, better at bouncing back from setbacks instead of getting stuck in self-doubt. How to use self-compassion to overcome procrastination. 1. Change your inner dialogue. Instead of, "I'm so lazy," say, "I'm struggling with this task, and that's okay. What's one small step I can take?" Instead of, "I always procrastinate," say, "I'm learning how to take action." 2. Forgive yourself for past procrastination. Research shows that people who forgive themselves for previous procrastination are less likely to procrastinate in the future. Let go of guilt and focus on what you can do today. 3. Treat yourself like a friend. Imagine if your best friend was struggling. Would you call them lazy, or would you encourage them? Speak to yourself with the same kindness you'd offer someone else. 4. Use setbacks as learning experiences. Instead of viewing procrastination as failure, see it as feedback. Ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach next time?" Be kind to yourself and take action. You don't have to be perfect to be productive. Self-compassion is the secret weapon against procrastination. It removes fear, builds confidence, and helps you move forward. Right now, think of a task you've been avoiding. Instead of criticizing yourself, try a new approach. Acknowledge your struggle, forgive yourself, and take one small step forward. Chapter 9. Emotional Mastery. Doing the work no matter what. One of the biggest myths about productivity is that you need to feel motivated to take action. The truth? Successful people don't wait for motivation, they take action regardless of how they feel. Why emotions control your actions? Most procrastination is driven by emotional resistance rather than laziness. You don't avoid a task because it's difficult. You avoid it because of how it makes you feel. Fear of failure makes you put off important projects. Boredom makes you delay routine tasks. Overwhelm causes you to avoid starting altogether. Your brain craves comfort, so it steers you away from anything that feels emotionally uncomfortable. But waiting until you feel like it is a trap, because motivation follows action, not the other way around. How to train yourself to take action despite feelings. 1. Recognize that discomfort is temporary. The hardest part of any task is starting. Once you begin, the discomfort fades. Instead of thinking, "I don't feel like doing this," say, "I'll feel better once I start." 2. Use the 5-minute rule. Commit to working on a task for just 5 minutes. Once you start, you'll often keep going beyond 5 minutes, because action creates momentum. 3. Reframe tasks as challenges, not burdens. Instead of saying, "I have to do this," say, "I get to do this." This shifts your mindset from obligation to opportunity. 4. Lower the emotional resistance. Break big tasks into tiny steps so they feel less overwhelming. Example, instead of writing a full report, just outline the first section. 5. Take action first. Let motivation catch up. Don't wait to feel inspired. Start, and inspiration will follow. Example, a runner doesn't feel excited before every workout, but once they start running, they get into the flow. Action comes before motivation. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean ignoring them. It means acting despite them. The next time you feel resistance, remind yourself, you don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Right now, think of one thing you've been avoiding. Apply one of these techniques and start now, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Chapter 10. The Science of Willpower. Self-discipline and willpower are often seen as traits you either have or don't have, but the truth is, willpower is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Just as lifting weights builds physical strength, taking small, consistent actions builds mental toughness and self-control. How willpower works. Scientists have discovered that willpower operates like a limited resource. It gets depleted throughout the day, but it can also be strengthened over time. This is why you might start your morning with good intentions, but struggle to resist distractions or temptations by the evening. However, people who develop strong self-discipline don't rely on willpower alone. They use strategies to conserve and maximize it. How to strengthen your willpower. 1. Start small and build momentum. Willpower grows through small, repeated actions. Example, instead of committing to an hour-long workout, start with 5 minutes daily. Over time, it becomes easier to sustain. 2. Reduce decision fatigue. Making too many choices drains willpower. Simplify your life by creating routines. Example, Steve Jobs wore the same type of clothes every day to avoid wasting mental energy on trivial decisions. 3. Use pre-commitment strategies. Make decisions in advance so you don't have to rely on willpower in the moment. Example, meal prep healthy foods ahead of time to avoid unhealthy eating choices later. 4. Remove temptations. Willpower is easier to maintain when temptations are out of sight. Example, if your phone distracts you, put it in another room while working. 5. Reward yourself for discipline. Positive reinforcement strengthens habits. Example, treat yourself to something enjoyable after completing a difficult task. Willpower is built through action. The more you practice self-discipline, the stronger your willpower becomes. Start small, set up systems that make discipline easier, and take consistent action every day. Right now, pick one area where you want to build self-discipline. Apply one strategy from this chapter and start training your willpower today. Conclusion: take action and stop procrastinating today. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored the root causes of procrastination and the strategies to overcome it. The truth is, procrastination isn't just about time management. It's about mastering your emotions, habits, and mindset. The key to breaking free isn't waiting for motivation but taking action, no matter how small. Recap: the 10 key strategies to overcome procrastination. 1. Understand why you procrastinate. Recognize that procrastination is an emotional issue, not a time management problem. 2. Build awareness. Track your procrastination patterns to identify triggers. 3. Get started with the 2-minute rule. Reduce resistance by breaking tasks into small, manageable steps. 4. Master your emotions instead of managing time. Take action despite fear, boredom, or overwhelm. 5. Simplify your plan. Make tasks easier to start by removing complexity. 6. Use rewards and consequences. Leverage motivation by creating incentives and accountability. 7. Control your digital distractions. Set boundaries with technology to regain focus. 8. Be kind to yourself. Use self-compassion instead of guilt to stay productive. 9. Take action even when you don't feel like it. Train yourself to move forward despite resistance. 10. Strengthen your willpower. Develop self-discipline through small, daily habits. Your challenge: stop waiting, start doing. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people because you're aware of the problem and ready to change. The next step is simple: take action today. What's one task you've been putting off? What's the smallest step you can take right now? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now, no matter how small, and watch your momentum grow. If you found this audiobook valuable, make sure to subscribe and share it for more powerful lessons on self-discipline, productivity, and success. Your journey to a better, more productive life starts with a single step. Take it now.